And US President Donald Trump celebrated Canada Day, calling Canada one of the most important relationships with the US and offering his best wishes for the country's bright future to Governor General Julie Payette. In a statement, Trump also said Canada represented a powerful, positive force in the world, sharing the strong bonds and common history with the United States. Let's bring in Duane Bratt with more on this. He's a political science professor at Mount Royal University in Calgary. Happy Canada Day, Duane, and thank you for taking our time for joining us today.
Okay.
Well, I have to ask you this. Apart from talking to us, what are your plans for today, Duane?
So we're going down to Princess Island in Calgary and then watch the fireworks tonight.
Awesome. Enjoy that evening. And let's get down to business. On the occasion of Canada Day, US President Trump says relationship with Canada is one of the most important. Where do you think the relationship stands as of now?
That statement was a form letter. Someone was commenting that it's like when your mother buys you a card when you're 3 to give to your dad for his birthday, right? It was perfunctory. It was written by someone else, and he put it forward. Had it been a verbal message or a tweet, the way he communicates, we'd get a better sense. Relations with Canada and the United States extend well beyond the personal leaders of each country. There are just so many ties between people across the two countries that it transcends any particular individual.
You know, Duane, I asked that question about when he says it's one of the most important relationships at a time when we've seen no clarity on whether or not the president actually brought up the question of 2 detained Canadians in China with his meeting with Xi. And this after Trump and Trudeau also had a meeting before that in Washington saying that, yeah, he may raise that issue. So that's why it's important to highlight the fact he says it's close and yet nothing on that.
No, I mean, his closest relationships seem to be with Putin and Xi and Kim Jong-un, the dictators of the world. He's antagonistic towards Canada, maybe not at this moment in time. I think the less he says about Canada, probably the better. But he doesn't seem to like democratic leaders and is much more supportive of authoritarian leaders. And that was clearly evident in the G20.
So let's talk about the issues back at home now. The carbon tax issue. We understand today the federal price on carbon tax takes effect in Yukon and Nunavut. It's not the gift a province would expect on Canada Day.
No, and the timing is a bit weird because January 1st is when the federal backstop kicked into Saskatchewan and New Brunswick and Ontario and Manitoba. In the jurisdictions that didn't already have a price on carbon. Alberta, which did have a price on carbon and then removed it, it kicks in January 1st of next year. And yet the 2 territories, it kicks in on July 1st. So the timing of all of these seems very ad hoc. The other issue is it comes in the wake of a second court victory supporting the constitutionality of the carbon tax. And so I'm not sure you're going to see any backlash coming from the Yukon or Nunavut on this.
Okay.
There's still another test to come from Alberta.
But, I was going to ask you this as my next question. The fact that this comes amidst these court battles, and we've seen both of them actually in favour of the federal government. Both Ontario and Saskatchewan have lost that battle. Of course, we've heard Jason Kenney being extremely strong and opposing to this carbon tax. The premiers of Nunavut and the other province we are referring to right now, Yukon, one is, of course, Liberal and the other isn't. How do you think that's going to shape up in the narrative?
I don't think it really has. It was interesting at the Western Premiers meeting that included the 3 territorial leaders in Edmonton this past week. And on the issue of climate change, which is what the carbon tax is supposed to deal with, it was the territorial leaders who were strongest in the effects that the climate change was having on their territory. So it's surprising that they didn't put in their own program, whether that's a lack of capacity within the government or instead just simply relying on the federal program.
All right, we'll have to leave it at that. Duane Bratt, political science professor at Mount Royal University in Calgary. Thank you so much for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, will do.